I promised you a doubleheader. You're going to get a doubleheader. Welcome to Sunday afternoon's edition of What If I Told You? So here we go. What if I told you that when it comes to consuming social media content, the values of the person who you are taking advice and tips from should be in alignment with your values? Now, I'm going to use myself obviously as an example on this one, and I'm going to have a couple of very good examples for myself, and I'm going to have one very terrible one for myself. As you've already known, if you've watched this channel for any amount of time, I am a devoted Christian, follower of Jesus Christ, in need of a sinner in need of a Savior. So with that regard, with that as the backdrop, I'm going to want somebody who either espouses those values or at bare minimum somebody who doesn't necessarily oppose them and for whom that's not going to be a conflict. Now, the one who is not in opposition and is not really in conflict, her name is Anna Jorgensen, and she has a lot of solution-based content about dating and relationships. And we've had some conversations in comment sections and through the channels. And so that is, so she's somebody who doesn't espouse but does concede as far as, men and women wanting to sleep together is concerned. And doesn't necessarily go off on a 304 espousing diatribe. Anna likes to explain this in terms of understanding the opposite gender, not necessarily in sexual terms, but maybe even within, other considerations. She doesn't necessarily say, hey, women, go out there and be 304s. Just you go out, everybody needs to go out there. She wants to decode modern women so that men can understand. And as her slogan goes, to attract, keep, and keep your keeper. This is an admirable goal, and I think even within the realm of the Christian faith, could be an admirable goal in and of itself. Now, while also conceding that she does, talk about sexual relationships on occasion. It's not a main feature of her channel. Now, my example of somebody who I really, really enjoy following because she is in alignment with my values, her name is Haley Rochelle, and she has her Facebook page. Haley is spelled Haley. I'll spell it in the description. Rochelle, of course, you probably know how that's spelled. She is a Christian, and she is kingdom aligned, and I respect and truly appreciate her content. And I share it as much as I possibly can because she's talking about things from a biblical standpoint and biblical points of view. Even to the point where she admits to being politically a conservative, as do I, largely. I'm more libertarian than anything else. But she says, hey, you know what? I voted for Donald Trump, but this whole thing of him picturing himself on his Truth Social page as Jesus himself is blasphemous. So those particular stands are why I align with Haley. And I value her content, and as I said, I share it as much as possible. Now I'm going to go to the other extreme real quickly here. This influencer's name is Laurin Ponce. She is, on her channel, she is vehemently anti-Jesus, anti-Christian. I will never take anything she says very seriously because of that. And she's out here talking about her marriage, which by the way, I don't believe she actually is married. I believe she uses that as a bait for content. And she's out here not only disparaging Christianity, she's out here wearing tight t-shirts to highlight her quote-unquote assets. And it's pretty difficult to miss. And so for that reason, I can't really watch her videos. Because that's a temptation that I just, I'm not going to put myself in that situation. Biblically, it does say to flee from sexual immorality and temptation, not to try to fight it. And so to flee her rather flaunting of her body features that she uses to get views and to attract eyes from men, while espousing an anti-Christian worldview. So I don't really watch her videos at all. My algorithm tries to suggest her, but I usually move on. And I think the reason why the algorithm has me on that one is because I have called her out for this crap before in her comment sections. But I think her quote-unquote husband is somebody who is cosplaying as her husband. I believe that the story of him being her trainer, I think, is true. You know, athletic physical trainer. You know, she was once 300 plus pounds and has worked her way down, but she flaunts her body now for views. As I have always said on this channel, when it comes to motivations in social media, follow the money. Haley, I don't think, is poor on that particular front. I think she does, generate a decent amount of revenue just judging by her view counts. But I don't believe that is her motivation. You can make good money doing something without necessarily having that be your primary motivation in life. We all have to work in order to be able to live. Biblically, that's true. That has been a punishment that has been sort of sent down from God ever since the days of Adam and Eve. That we would have to toil and work on the land. And Adam was forced to do that. And so the end result is, if you're consuming social media content, please, please, please deeply consider the values of the content creator. You can either have them not be necessarily opposed to you, or you can do, like I do with Haley, favor somebody who really is aligned with my values. Whereas taking the good out of Anna's content, while knowing that she isn't necessarily fully aligned with my values, but isn't vehemently opposed to them either. In fact, Anna will always say that, you should be in alignment in values with whoever your future partner is. She will advocate that regardless of what those values are. This I can get behind without question, knowing what my specific values are. And I will never, follow or necessarily watch Laurin Ponce's content because it's temptation in the worst way. I've called her out before it. She's never responded, but I think she knows it's true. She flaunts her body for eyes from men, and doesn't necessarily lean on the value of her content. She also says that she's not a feminist, but her attitude is very much like a boss babe. She's somebody who is basically a my way or the highway type of individual. I'm not necessarily a my way or the highway type of individual. Again, I'm a Sigma. I think of things very deeply. I can consider Anna's valuable content while also conceding that she isn't fully in alignment with my personal values, but isn't necessarily opposed to them either, and still, and even in her own way, encourages this. As far as partnerships and pair bonding is concerned. She speaks of this too. So you can make concessions, but don't surrender those values. And Laurin Ponce, of course, is a massive opponent of the Christian faith by her own admission. There's no way I can support her channel and her views, and I think I will just continue to cross out her videos when they pop up in my feed for this reason. So yes, what if I told you need to consider the values of the content creator before you jump in and start digging too deep into it, because I think this is very critical and very important. I will again spell out Haley's name. You can look up on Facebook. I think she has an Instagram as well, but I don't have Instagram, so I'm not sure how it's going to work. But I will say that, Haley is my favorite because she is aligned with my faith values and is not afraid to call out some of the bullcrap from some women out there who say that they want a Christian man, and yet they, like Laurin Ponce, will flaunt their bodies on social media for views and attention. She calls this crap out for what it is. And I will leave it at that for today. Enjoy your Sunday, the rest, whatever's left of it. And if you're watching this on a different day, I will see you next time. You folks have a great time, and peace out, homies.